American empire is crumbling, Chinese century, etc., etc. Really, though, the follow-through after the quote-unquote meeting with Zelenskyy, I mean, it has been insane. Absolutely insane. The summit organized by British Prime Minister Keir Starmer and other European leaders. The summit will include leaders from France, Germany, Denmark, Italy, Netherlands, Norway, Poland, Spain, Turkey, Finland, Sweden, Czechia, and Romania, as well as the NATO Security Council and the presidents of the European Commission and European Council. We're getting locked out, which is good because we're the enemy. The whole point of NATO was obviously, we're fighting against the Soviet Union. Soviet Union collapses. Turns out, Russia's well, for a while they weren't friends with us, but now it seems like we're actually very close allies with them. So NATO dumped us? Not really, but like, we might leave NATO. And I know, I'm sure a lot of campuses are like, yay, but keep in mind, we'd be entering something worse. The ramifications of this, the whole Zelenskyy thing is insane. It's fucking insane. Find me anything, anywhere, any records at all of a meeting going like that, of a president acting that way. It really is our Brexit. Yeah, it really is our Brexit. Norwegian fuel supplier refuses U.S. warships over Ukraine. Fuel company Haltbach Bunkers has announced it'll cease supplying fuel to U.S. military forces in Norway and American ships docking in Norwegian ports, citing dissatisfaction with recent U.S. policy towards Ukraine. It's much worse than Brexit, to be clear, but in terms of like the direction things are going, except of course that even the people who did Brexit aren't on our side. We don't even get to keep the sun never setting on the transatlantic partnership between the United States and Britain. We're an active security threat to Europe. We literally are. We no longer even the Hegseth, the Pentagon, no longer considers Russia to be an active security threat, which means, in other words, like you can expect more and more serious information sharing. Not just, Russian agents coming over to Mar-a-Lago, take a step in the bathroom, peek some private documents Trump brought over, but like just direct information sharing. Germany's Mars has said that he wants an EU nuke cooperation. He wants France and England to share nukes with other EU countries. Macron said he's ready to discuss it. That's crazy.
Thank you very much. Well, let me just say that you're very, very welcome here in Downing Street. As you heard from the cheers on the street outside, you have full backing across the United Kingdom. And we stand with you, with Ukraine, for as long as it may take. And I hope you heard some of that cheering in the street. That is the people of the United
Analysts at the agency were verbally informed they were not to follow or report on Russia threats. Yeah. It's not only are we not considering Russia a state enemy, we're telling like cybercoms to let off them. Like literally, Russia has been or at least one of the main cybersecurity threats to the United States. And we're just like, nah, don't worry, whatever. They run the country now anyway. Who gives a shit?
Coming out to demonstrate how much they support you, how much they support Ukraine, and our absolute determination to stand with you, unwavering determination, and to achieve what we both want to achieve, which is a lasting peace for Ukraine based on sovereignty and security for Ukraine. So important for Ukraine, so important for Europe, and so important for the United Kingdom. So
it's worth noting here again, like this isn't just a matter of disagreeing with American policy, which is something that's happened many, many times. It's immediately after Zelenskyy and his fight with J.D. Vance and Trump getting invited basically in stark opposition, like, hey, to let you know, we're not with them, It's a paradigm shift in geopolitics. It's a moment that will be recorded and remembered in history. At some point, somebody's going to give a name to it. Like it's not going to be called the the March or the February 28th, 2025 Zelenskyy conference at the White House or whatever. It's going to be given a name, and people will refer to it by that name. Did you cover the interview itself? Yep, the whole thing. Jesus, man, it's a whole new world.
Germany's next leader, Friedrich Merz, is calling for a discussion on nuclear sharing with France and Britain, the only nuclear powers in Western Europe. Merz has argued that the US strategy is shifting under Donald Trump, and therefore Europe needs greater defense independence. France, however, has rejected the idea. France's defense minister, Sébastien Lecornu,
I thought Macron said he was considering it. Is this more recent information or is this outdated information?
says that France's nuclear deterrence is French and will remain French. The president alone decides when to use it, and there will be no formal guarantees for European partners. Talking about Britain now, Britain's nuclear weapons fall under NATO's umbrella, providing some protection to Europe. However, experts say the UK's arsenal relies heavily on US missiles and warheads, raising questions.
Not for long, man. Not for long.
Well, first of all, Canada has been there for Ukraine from day one, indeed from before day one, as in 2015 we started training Ukrainian military forces on the ground in Ukraine, which was a significant part. Western training to the Ukrainian armed forces is one of the reasons why Ukraine has been able to stand up to the Russian invaders so effectively over the past years. It's not just Canada, a number of countries have been involved, but for historical reasons, Canada having the second largest diaspora of Ukrainians in the world.
The entire supply chain for the UK's nukes are from US suppliers and sources. Yeah, but keep in mind that a lot of the stuff the United States produces also has supply lines that run to other countries too, right? Like Canada, Mexico are European partners, but that's all over now. Like all of these ties are being severed. Right now, every single European government, every ally, not even just in Europe, are making plans to break away from the United States. And to think, like, literally all of this just to, I don't know. I mean, I guess at the end of the day, it's just about, like, Elon Musk wanting everyone to think he's cool. Like, that's kind of the whole reason all this is happening. Sort of like how you hear about, like, big historical wars, or like the Chinese Three Kingdoms period, and if you, like, trace it back to its root, it's like, well, one guy really, really thought that his dad should respect him more, and that's kind of why this all happened, you know? And Obama's Tight Five. The F-35 is built with parts and components from, like, every U.S. ally and NATO country. Don't worry, American military supremacy is going to start falling apart pretty soon as well. Our military supremacy has basically been unquestioned up until this point, but as of a few weeks ago, we're doing the Russia bit, which is military leadership is being appointed based on loyalty rather than on competence. That's really all it takes. Everything from that point forward is a downhill roll. It doesn't matter how much money you pump into the system, right? At the end of the day, military competence comes down to, you know, discipline, consistency, independent decision-making. Once you erode at that, you know, once you make it about loyalty, you kind of, it all falls apart.
Means that we felt deeply connected to Ukraine, but we also believe deeply that it's not just about Ukraine. It's about the rules and the values and the principles of sovereignty, of independence, of territorial integrity that protects every country in the world.
The American military is already kind of competent. If you want a perfect example of what I'm talking about, how discipline and competence being prioritized over loyalty, the biggest example of this, I think, is the difference between how we behaved during the Gulf War versus the Iraq/Vietnam War. I think you see a perfect, like, it's very, very obvious which of these wars was conducted with, like, military competence first, and which of them were conducted as political exercises first, with, you know, the generals essentially being told, like, catch up, motherfucker. Like, this is what we're doing. Get in line, you know? Like, this is, yeah, we're president's commander-in-chief. This is what we're going for. It's pretty obvious, you can tell. Gulf War was so perfect, it's kind of beautiful in a way. It was like a synchronized dance, the Gulf War. Insane.
All of us rely on those rules to be able to build peace and security. And we know that with the world changing, we're all going to have to do more around peace and security. One of the key themes that we heard today, as we've heard from many, many partners around the world in NATO and elsewhere over the past number of years, is people are going to be doing more on defense. 9.5 years ago, when I took office in Canada, the previous government had us down below 1% of defense spending, even though the NATO 2% pledge had been made a year or two before. In the subsequent time, we have more than tripled defense spending on the path to 2030, and we're on our way to 2%. And we know
it is genuinely really sad that, like, this is the direction the world is heading in, but much in the same, like, I have to be consistent here, right? Like, I would have militantly supported U.S. armament against the Nazis in World War II. I'm like, it's not a principled pacifism. Or I suppose it is very principled in the sense that that's the world you're fighting for, but, like, clearly the work's not done. At the end of the day, all of this comes down to capital. There's no way around that. Everything we're experiencing right now in the United States is a consequence of a slower version of what happened in Russia after the fall of the Soviet Union, which is, you know, you consolidate power in the hands of too small a group of people, blah, 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 blah. You know the deal. You know my spiel. Would you support a war against Russia? No, because I'm not, like, insanely stupid. However, you know, the possibility of proxy wars cropping up or whatever. Can't rely on America. We know where America stands now. It's a good spiel. It is a good spiel. And it's true. It's just true.
We're going to have to continue to do more and more in an uncertain world, and Canada will be there. As to how we will be there, we will work with our neighbors on it, but everything is on the table because we need to make sure that might no longer makes right.
Europe could beat Russia in a conventional war if they had the will. Well, sure, but it wouldn't be a conventional war. It'd be nuclear apocalypse. Yes, in a conventional war, Russia would get stomped by plenty of countries. Certainly a united European front, like, it wouldn't even be... The Russian doctrine is landmines, you know, tank traps, artillery, and infantry, you know? They would be deleted from space. They were lasers, you know, it wouldn't even be a thing. But nukes are nukes. That's how it is.
In this world. That's what has led to 80 years of incredible stability and prosperity, not just in Europe, but around the world, because of the institutions we built out of the ashes of World War II. And standing up for those institutions is in the best interest of every single one of us. Now, as a collection of different nations, we will have different perspectives from time to time on the best way forward, and those will be worked out.
I just don't see Russian oligarchs being behind living in a cold bunker eating canned food for the rest of their lives. Didn't you hear? Donald Trump is selling American pathways to citizenship for only $5 million each. A Russian oligarch can easily afford that.
In forums like this, or at the G7 forum or elsewhere. But we are united in our values. We are united in wanting to see peace and fairness and prosperity for all our citizens, and that's what continues to drive us forward. Le Canada va toujours être là pour l'Ukraine.
Will Europe remove American bases from their countries? Actually, yeah, I think that shift is coming. That was something Donald Trump was even talking about before in his talks with Russia down in Saudi Arabia. Russia wants that, certainly. Yeah, that might actually happen. Though we would need to move a little, the needle would need to move a little further in that direction for that to be, like, really on the table. But yeah, where are the new bases going to be? I don't think there would be new bases. I just think we would, like, lose our allies. My battalion commander literally said that needs to happen this morning. Yeah, I mean, at this point, they're a security threat. Would you want Russian bases in Germany and France? Probably not. I've started to miss Vosh's patriotism speeches. Sorry, you guys, you got like jingoist pro-American speeches under Biden when it was appropriate. They're not appropriate right now. I'm sorry, we're the bad guys. We're unambiguously the bad guys in this dynamic. We've always been bad, mind you, but there are usually tiers above or below, good things you could or couldn't do. This is an unmistakable shift downwards on the rung. It's not good. It's crazy how aligned the U.S. is with Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, and being evil. Well, hold on, okay? There are major differences here. North Korea, for one, is a meme. Russia is a raped, pillaged shithole run by a few hundred ultra-wealthy men who want to do the same to America. That is the goal of the ultra-wealthy here. Iran benefits from their relationship with Russia, but they're doing their own thing. And their own thing is holding an incredibly narrow margin of control over a population that does not like their government. And China, I actually think that which direction China goes in is going to be one of the big, that's going to be one of the big, like, kingmaker moments, I guess, because China has incentives to run in both directions, you know? It could be a Chinese century, but if they wanted it to be, the best thing they could do, in my opinion, would be to align with the EU. The gulf between China and America is arbitrary and politically constructed. For one, America has good relationships with plenty of dictatorships. For two, keep in mind, we didn't consider China an enemy until recently. It was only after their dangest economic miracle that we even, that was a consideration. Nixon opened talks with China back in the what, 70s? Yeah, it was 70s. The idea that China is like this great threat from overseas, a lot of you probably don't remember, that narrative is only about 20 years old. I know it sounds crazy, but back during the early Bush term, it wasn't like this. Trump is the first president to really lean in on it. Obama and Bush more talked about China like foreign competitors, which is fair. That's fair. Economic competitors, sure. But to treat them like an enemy, that's a Trump thing. It's relatively new. China could deepen ties with the European Union. It would make sense for them to, in my opinion, if it was possible to. The EU does not hate China as much as America hates China. What about BRICS? BRICS is still a meme. Still a meme, still a meme. The EU does not want to ally with China? Well, depends on what you mean by ally. There's a trade relationship. To what extent? How much will that develop? I really do hope our European allies are able to pick themselves up.
How do you see the best way for the EU to deal with the one issue that is perhaps the last remaining issue of integration, and that is defense?
Mm-hmm. Yes, this is a very good question. I think I've always been of the opinion that Europe should not create any alternative to NATO, because NATO is a military structure, and every NATO member, we have 31 members now, 32 members? 32.
Finnish Prime Minister? No, she's Estonian, is she not? Am I wrong in this? Am I wrong in my memory? Kaja Kallas? Estonian, yeah. The Baltic states are NATO's greatest soldiers, by the way. These are the, we sit pretty with our budget over in America, but these are the suicide vest wearing front line against Russian aggression. They're right up there.
32 members now, so you have 32 different armies,
former Estonian PM, now holding public office.
32 defense planners, and 32 defense budgets. So that means you need those armies to work together. And what now comes to the European side is that we need to have the interoperability of all the capabilities and stuff. I'll bring you one example. I'm
just trying to get a feeling, I guess, moving out from here. I took a look at various European nations' media. I wanted to take a look, try to get a vibe, I guess, and it's all very pro-Zelensky, even if they're not being super open in their antagonism against
President
Trump.
Zelensky is preparing to travel to London for a summit of European leaders on Sunday.
What's our preferred source of media from France, the English-speaking channel? Can you remind me?
After he clashed with President Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance in an extraordinary shouting match on a visit to the Oval Office. President Trump accused the Ukrainian leader of gambling with World War III and of not being...
Even Mélenchon is praising Zelensky. In any case, Zelensky was courageous. Without his aplomb, our continent would display the status of a simple colony of the USA, whose leaders will pat themselves in the back with their buddy Trump. Hey, at least we're making being pro-Ukrainian the anti-American position. Sorry, Mélenchon.
Being grateful for the support of the US. President Zelensky made it clear there should be no compromises with President Putin. Following all that drama, the president of Ukraine was ordered to leave the White House and a much-anticipated minerals deal was not signed. The US president later said President Zelensky could return when he was ready for peace. Our North America editor Sarah Smith has this report.
Donald Trump began the day confident he was about to sign a very advantageous deal.
We know what happened. Can you all forgive me, perhaps, for being a little bit weirded out by all of this? I understand that we sort of intellectually grapple with what's happening here, but on a personal level, the idea that over the course of a few months, the entire global order centering on my country, by the way, the entire global order has been upended, and we're in like a completely unknown, I don't know, man. So something's happening. Yeah, nothing ever happens, folks, are definitely not eating well. Global leaders react to verbal brawl in Oval Office. It's difficult to get a feel for what the attention levels are in, say, for example, in Germany, you know, based off their English-speaking channel, right? They would be going to like German news sources, but it's pretty obvious how people feel. British media is straight up having people say J.D. Vance is a piece of shit on air. It is insane that all of this is being done because a few hundred ultra-wealthy people want to treat America like a no-rules playground for the wealthy. They want to turn America into Dubai. That's literally it. That's what it all boils down to. Is it because Trump's an egotist? Sure, but that's not the cause. Is it because Elon Musk wants you to believe he's good at playing Path of Exile 2? Sure, but that's not the cause. Is it because J.D. Vance couches? Sure, but that's not the cause. The cause is because that's what Russia is to them, to the oligarchs in Russia. That's all it is to them. They're untouchable. They're legally untouchable to anyone other than Vladimir Putin, you know? Like, as long as you don't get on his bad side, they can just basically do whatever they want. And Russia is a shithole to Russians, but to those few hundred or so people, oh, they have the time. They have such a good time. It's like that in Dubai. Yeah, most of the people living on the outskirts are slaves. Foreign workers with their visas taken away. Yeah, it's a shit city to live in, but if you can treat it like a permanent tourist, then fine, it's perfect for you. If you're wealthy enough to enjoy the many sights and sounds, then it's actually one of the most interesting cities to live in, I'm told, for a certain type of person. And it's not even a 1% thing. What is the 1% in America? $400,000 a year? Or something like that? $400,000 a year? That's not Dubai levels. 700K? That's not Dubai levels. $1 million, $2 million a year? No. We're talking about literally like the smallest, the top 1% of the 1%. Maybe that. And everything is being done for their benefit. Everything else is just propaganda. Canada's foreign minister says new economic and security partners needed amid shift in USA. Jesus Christ, our closest allies. Closest both politically and geographically. They're right there, man. They're right there. And they're looking for a way out. Listen, okay, you can be an accelerationist or not, but the acceleration is coming. You can, listen, everyone's an accelerationist when the person driving the car hits the accelerator. All right, you can believe in it or not. I'm from Eastern Europe. Do you guys in the US see a shift in how people think about Trump after yesterday? That's the fucked up thing. No. There will never in America be a big paradigm shift like what you see abroad, because half of this country is so hopelessly propagandized to that they could watch Trump their child and they would still come up with an excuse. It is insane how polarized this country is. The problem, it's not just how far right America is, because we're not the most far right country in the world, politically speaking. Not even close. It's that the American right has been taught to not believe in anything. No principles. Absolutely none. Everything is to trigger the libs. That's the unique American phenomenon. There are other countries out there that are very far right who will nonetheless adhere to those far right principles. You know? There are countries out there that think gay people should be stoned or whatever, but if they found out their political leaders were gay, they would want those political leaders stoned. But here in America, they want pedophiles stoned. Sure, fine, I prefer, I don't know, the justice system or whatever, but go ahead, I guess. Then they find out Trump is literally Epstein's closest friend. No one cares. That's the difference. It's not that America is super far right. It's that the American right does not believe in anything. And their constituents have been taught to not believe in anything. So nothing moves the needle. You know? Trump might crash the economy. Trump might do this. Trump might do that. It doesn't matter. Like it doesn't matter. Because it's fake, or it's not fake, or it was to trigger the libs, or he didn't actually mean that, or whatever. That's the cancer here. I would rather argue with a 1,000 reactionary Islamists who come over here from Iran or something, you know? I would rather have a conversation with all of them in a row about the right for women to show their hair or whatever the If they actually believe it, I would rather talk about it with them than a single Trump supporter who will walk back every single thing they pretend they believe in the nanosecond it's politically expedient. People with no principles, jello spines. Real talk, what's the solution to that? I don't want to talk about it. Overwhelming media capture, exercised with a level of ferocity that's flashing a lot of whatever you want, you know? Trudeau's going to Europe? Really? Oh my god. Then they are going to join the EU. Holy shit. I don't know. I think the first step is the UK rejoining the EU. I don't know if they will. They have to deal with their own shit. The UK isn't really like very European culturally. They need to bring it back. Protesters against JD Vance. That's good. That's good. That's good. They can threaten military invasion. Again, like, we have to know our place, okay? America could be brought to its knees almost instantly with an embargo, okay? If America actually threatened to invade Canada, it would be ruinous for the continent. It would not be good, like even a little bit. And the way things are going, having a feeling that European countries, other NATO countries, might start to supply Canada, not us. I don't think it's actually on the table. Is it possible that the USA helps Russia militarily in Ukraine? Yeah, not only is it possible, I'm very confident that it's going to happen. Yeah, Japan's pulling away from us as well. I think the chatter meant in the sense of the US bombing Ukraine. No. The American public would not tolerate direct interference like that. That would be shocking to me. Providing arms to Russia, it'd be crazy, but it could happen. At this, like, the way things are going, that could happen, yeah. Hello, Ruben. Beep, beep, beep. No more Japanese denim for you. Yeah. You think the public opinion still matters? Yes. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Never forget, no matter how bad things get, every dictatorship in history is built upon, at the very least, the passive acceptance of the majority. Always, no matter what. No one has ever built a power structure that has not been reliant on the majority being at least quiet. It's a necessity. Public opinion still matters a lot. But what if half the country is this indoctrinated into a cult? They don't... The Republicans don't want to invade Ukraine on Russia's side. The Republican constituency is not interested in that. There are limits to this thing. We are benefiting to a large extent from the fact that Americans cannot stand hardship. Canada's on track to hit recruiting targets. Holy shit. That's funny.